Thank you everyone for joining the learning series today. Myself, Rishitej. I'm a senior technical program manager in AWS. Been with AWS for a little over 5 years.
Hi everybody, I'm Neha Miglani. I'm a BI manager within AWS DXT. Been with the team in the company for a little over 5 years as well.
Cool. And let's start with sharing the agenda items for today. So for today, we'll be discussing dynamic columns in the QuickSight, and then column level security using the parameters, overlaid visuals, some tips and tricks like using the parameters, how we can do that. And at the end, we'll be answering the questions which we receive in the chat. All right. So introduction, I won't go much deep into the QuickSight. QuickSight, as everyone knows, it's a data exploration tool, analysis, and also dashboard, where you can do much more than just representing the data. You can do deeper analysis, you can also create some visuals, and then we'll be sharing some more functionalities which QuickSight has right now. So on some of the high-level functionalities which we'll be showcasing today is controls, we'll be using that to use the filters and also some calculated fields. So where you can mix, update the calculator, update the fields which you have, and sorry for this, and some parameters which are main base for the learning series today. So we'll be using that to connect to the controls, and then how you can control the visuals using the parameters. And then the column level security, as everyone might already be aware. So column level security is generally when you want to hide or show specific columns to only specific level of users. So or prevent the columns to be accessible. For example, everyone in the company can see all the dashboard items except for the salary of an employee in a table. So that is something which you can control using column level security. So I'll jump into the first item for today, that is dynamic columns. So before diving into what dynamic columns is, how we can do that, I'll just give you a simple scenario. So let's say you are a QuickSight developer, and then you've been assigned a task to create a sales data for month over month, and then with 10 different dimensions. So dimensions as in region, country, or org leader. So there are 10 different dimensions like that, and then you've been assigned a task to create a visual on the website to showcase all month over month sales, by this all 10 dimensions. So a general approach, what we will generally take is create one visual and then represent the sales month over month using the leader data or region or country, and then replicate that 10 times to display all the 10 different visuals. So what are the drawbacks by creating this 10 different visuals for showcasing the same exact data, just you are changing the dimensions? What this can do is it can consume a lot of real estate. You need to scroll from top to down, just to view one visual. Let's say a user logs in and then they just want to see the sales data by region, and then that's the last slide. So they have to go search all the visuals and see okay, which one has the region data, and then they will look into that. Also, the visuals you're showcasing are redundant. It's displaying the exact same data, and let's assume you were given there are only 10 visuals, which I'm telling right now, 10 dimensions. Let's say there are 30 different dimensions, and then you need to display 2 visuals for each of the sales data. So the QuickSight has only limitation for 30 visuals in one particular tab. So you can't represent all the data in one tab. So what is the alternative approach for this one? So the approach is dynamic columns. So before getting into that, let's go into the workshop and then view what exactly I'm talking about in the dynamic columns. So this is the scenario which I was talking about. So here I have a headcount data which I'm representing month over month by job levels. Let's say level of the people whom they set it. And then I'm also representing that same data, exact same data month over month by region. And then I'm doing this by country in the bottom. So if there are 10 different dimensions, I'll be doing the same thing for the 10 different dimensions. So similarly, not just for a table, for any pie chart or anything. So what exactly is ideal experience, and how we can minimize this redundancy or reduce redundancy? So the solution is dynamic columns. What exactly is dynamic column? So here, the visual, if you see that, this is the exact same visual which I'm showing in the other tab. But you see the region, here it shows region. And then by using this control, what I'm doing is like changing the first column which you're selecting or the dimension which you're selecting. I can change it to the country, I can change it to the job level or state. And similarly, if you see here, the current headcount state, so this one is also getting updated as I update this column. So this is what I'm talking about, like the dynamic columns. It's like this column is dynamic. You can represent like whatever the data which you want in a single dimension. And then like all the three visuals which I showed back in this tab can be compressed. Like it could be, you can have as many as 30 or like more than that, like in this one single column. So how do we create this? Like let's jump into the demo of it. So first, like to do this, like you should start by creating a parameter. So parameter, everyone might be aware of parameter. What we can do is like start by creating a parameter. So just for example, like since we are in time constraint, like I'll be demoing what we already created, but like this is how the step by step, like how you create it. So what you do is like create a parameter. So here what I've done is like created a column one parameter. And then what I did is like define the name and then like make sure to define it as a string because like we are providing string values to select the control. You can also have numbers like first column, second column, third column, as and then second, this is mandatory, like where you should select single value because like you can't select multiple values in the controls for displaying the column. And then by default, I gave it as a region. And then there is nothing else you need to select. And then advanced setting, like you can leave it by default. And then you just create the column. So since I already created this, like I'm going to cancel it, like here is my column. So I created two. I'll discuss like why. So once you create a parameter, what you need to do is like create a calculated field. In that calculated field, second one, I'll be going on like updating the control. So I'll be creating a control using this parameter. So if anyone has done it before, like once you create a parameter, it will ask you to create the parameter. Let's say I just say column 1, 2, and then static value, like if I don't define, that's fine. When you create it, like it will automatically ask you to create a control. That's what I'm doing here. I'm clicking the control here. And then what that will take me is like this. So I'm creating a control on top of this parameter, and then I'm naming it as column 1. And then what I'll be doing here is like representing all the values which I need to see. So control options, if I click on the control options, I selected specific values which I wanted to display in the control. So country, job level, region, and state. So that's what I'm doing here. So, and then like once I have these values defined, what I'll be doing is like connecting this control to this calculated field. So then I'll create a control, calculated field, where the parameter equal to country, and then I'm defining that as a country field. So when the column 1 is selected as state, it will be a state field. So similarly, region to region and job level to job level. And then like in the last, you can just leave it as null if nothing is selected. And then I'll save it. And the final part, what I'll do here is I'll just simply create a visual, or like in already created visual, what I'll do is like, instead of using the country or like something else, I'll use this calculated field, which is the column level 1. So that's what I'll be doing, and then like that will be displayed as my column 1. So you might be asking like how it is showing the region here. I can simply do that by going to format visual in the value names. In the row names, like same parameter which I used to create the column 1, I displayed it here. So like whatever the field I select there will be displayed as a header as well. So similarly, you can do it for a pie chart or like any kind of visual. So what this does is like creating the first field using this parameter. So as simple as it's like connecting a parameter to a control and then connecting the control to this calculated field that will be displayed as a dynamic column. So that's how you create a dynamic column. What it does is like saves a lot of space, and then like all you want, like similar visuals can be created in one single visual. And then you can add as many as column 1, column 2, like any number of columns. You can also use it for any of the month fields, anything else. All right. Moving on to the second one. What I'll be second agenda item I'll be talking about is a column level security. So let's talk about scenarios like again. So let's say as a dashboard developer, you're creating a table. So when you create a table and then like you want to hide, like that table has like all the employee details, including the salary of an employee. So not everyone in the company or like whoever has access to the dashboard should see the salary of the employee. Only specific user group is allowed to see. How do you do it? So you create a table with all the columns you want, and then like there is a salary column. So if you use a column level security, and then like hide the let's say person like me, like Rishi should not have access to the salary, and then like you do it using the column level security in the dashboard. So what this does is like hide entire visual. So it won't just hide the column; it will hide the entire visual. And similarly, like when you like how do you like do that to a group of people? So you create a groups like either in Amazon, like we use Teams, or like in other tools, like you can use other tools to create a groups, add like as many of 100 people using the natural rules, like, okay, add anyone like who is a manager, and then like provide them access to the column level security. So there are so many limitations by creating group. It's like not every tool has a natural parameters or rules like defined using this like is manager, like just add managers or like managers having like the odd size of 50. So these things will not be available in all the tools. So what is the workaround for it? And let's go to the dashboard again. So here is the dashboard which I'm talking about. And then like I'll go to this particular. Okay. So what I created here, like simply a usual approach. And then what I'm seeing is like I'm seeing a dynamic column level table, and then I have access to everything. So if I go to the usual column level security approach, so this is my data set. And then what I'm doing is like creating the column level security. And then I select this one. And then what I'm doing is like I'm providing access to the level. Let's assume like this is kind of a salary or so level only particular. So only this particular group of people should have access to the level, and then apply. So, but like for me, like I have access to rest everything else, like only I don't have access to the level. But like how does that impact the visual? So when I refresh it, I don't have access to the whole visual. I'm not even able to see the other fields which I still have access. So that's one of the restrictions or like drawbacks of like having this column level security directly attached to the data set. So what is the solution here? So ideal state. So since I don't have access to the level, the ideal state should be it's just when I click on the access to job level, it should say access restricted. And the people with no access restriction, like or people within that support group, like should have access to this level. So this is how people with access should see, and this is how like the people without access to the level should see the data, not like how we see in this like blocking the entire visual. So how do you create this? So for this one, you have to start by creating a data set. So this is a data set which I'm creating. So you can start creating data set like and then like define a simple table here. And then what I'm doing is like it should have username. Every username like who should have access to this data. And then for level access, so Neha has access to the level here. So my name is not listed. Anyone like whose name is not listed, they won't have access to this data. So that's how we define this column level security table. So how it is displayed, Neha, like she has access. She has access to the level. Anyone else, like they don't have access to this job level. So this is how it is defined. So make sure you define the username as username because like this is the exact value of the column name in the column level security or the parameter based thing like which will be user. So how does this work? Like when any user logs in into a dashboard, what happens is like it will map like whoever is logging into the dashboard as Rishi. Like currently, if I logged in, so my name will be displayed as like Rishi here. So if Neha logs in, it will be validating as Neha. So since like we added column level security as Neha, like she'll be having access to that one. And then this is the column level security we're trying to replicate. So what you do is like starting again with the parameters, what you do is like create a parameter access for level. And then like I edit this parameter and then like create a parameter, define a name using this as string and then like single value as I mentioned. And then for this one, it is mandatory to define dynamic default. So I'm just selecting the data set. Sorry, before you do this, like what you need to do is like the data set you created should be added to this analysis. So I added this analysis, like column level security data set, which I created to this analysis. And then on top of it, like then I created this parameters. So I created this parameter and then like I created it as a string, single value, and then went into the dynamic default. So here what I do is like select the column level security data set which you created separately, and then select the username. So this will be mapped to the person who is logging in, and then group name you can leave it as null, and then which level access you are trying to replicate here. Level access. So job level access is something which you are trying to replicate, and then apply. So here you just create that, and then you're not creating any column here, any control here with this using the parameter. So, and the next thing which you'll be doing is like create a duplicate field or like replicate the job level field into another column, another calculated field. So here simply what you're doing is like if level access equal to y for anyone people like who is having access to the level, then they will see the job level. Rest everyone else will see access restricted. So I created this calculated field and then click save. So what this will create is like instead of just showing the level, it will show the access restricted level, which anyone should see. So you can apply this for salaries and salaries on like any other confidential fields. So what this does, and then like what next you need to do is like apply this to the visuals. Like instead of using the level, I'll use the job level more, which I created, and similarly here. So what this happens is like whenever the people who don't have access, like me right now, can see access restricted for this particular field. And then people who has access, they will see all the levels in the job level field. So that's how you create a column level security using the parameter, and then like you don't block the entire visual. So that's it from my side. I'll be passing on this to Neha. She'll be continuing with the next topic.
Thank you, Rishi. All right, so moving on to our third topic, which is overlaid visuals. So what we learned in our first topic, which was dynamic columns, was let's say you have one single visual and you want to show multiple dimensions on that. You want to show job level as well and the region as well in the same column. How do you use parameters to make that happen in the same visual? The next scenario, the problem that we are going to address through parameters is when you want to change the visual type as well. Let's say, for example, you are supporting multiple customers and one customer wants to see the sales data or the headcount data by region in a pivot chart, whereas the other one wants to see it as a bar chart. How would you achieve that? The usual solution is because both of them are your leaders and your customers, you create visuals for each of them. But what happens when you have more customers and they want a third type of visualization for the same data? You end up creating a third visualization showing the exact same data. What are some of the drawbacks of this approach? You are going to be needed to maintain standardization across multiple visuals showing the same data. The data is repeated. Any minor change in one visual needs to be adjusted in the other visual as well. And the approach doesn't scale as you have more and more customers wanting to see the data in the way they are used to reading the data. So let's go to our presentation and see some of the examples. Let's say they want to see, one leader wants to see monthly trend by region in this form of a pivot and the pie chart, whereas the other one wants to see in the form of a bar chart and a pivot. What is the ideal solution for that? Let's look at the ideal solution first and then we will talk about it. The ideal solution would be if I'm a leader who wants to see my data in a bar chart format, I come and select myself here and I see the formats that I have personally requested or approved to be shown for myself. And if I'm not that leader, if I'm the other leader, I come here, I select my name over here, and then I see the charts the way I want to use them in my presentations to my leaders or my organizations. What you will notice here is there is one single real estate where the visuals are swapping. They appear to be just kept on top of each other. The other one disappears, the one related to me appears, and I don't have to move to any other sheets to do that. How do we achieve this? So let's learn how to achieve this using the parameters. So we will come to our analysis for our demo, and we will start by creating a parameter again. Let's see the existing parameters that we have created for the purpose of this demo today. The visual type. Let's see what the visual type parameter is. It has a name, it has a data type, and it has to be a single value parameter. You will default it to anything you want. Let's say you want to use leader 1 as your value, and then you don't have to do any setups in the advanced setting. After that, you cancel it. As Rushi has previously explained, how by using the parameter you will create the controls and you will give the values to be showcased in the controls. Quickly looking at the values to be showcased in the controls could be anything you want to show that will help your users select the visuals they want to see. This could actually be the visual names as well. Like for example, you want to see the pivot chart, you want to see the pie chart, things like that. And after that, what we will do is we will put one visual on top of each other and define some rules on when to show which visual. So let's see how we do that. First, we bring all the visuals that you need to put on top of each other into the same sheet of your analysis. After that, you go and change the sheet settings. When you start creating a dashboard, by default, the sheet setting is styled. So when you bring another new visual, it by default goes and sits at the empty space at the bottom of the visual, and you're not able to put one visual on top of the other. To achieve the experience of being able to pull one visual on top of the other, you will have to make your sheet layout to be a free form. Unless you have it as a free form, you won't be able to do any further steps to achieve this experience. So make sure it is made as free form. And then you will apply it. I'm not going to apply it because it'll move around everything right now in our demo. Once you do that, you will see an option under interactions for that visual comes up. The options is rules. If you have the dashboard set as tiled, you will not even see this option pop up. This option only pops up when you have freeform as the sheet setting. Now let's see what do we have to do in rules to make this behavior. So in the rules, what you will do is you will say hide this visual by default and show the visual if my parameter value is equal to, let's say, leader 2 in this case. Similarly, if I show you the visual behind it, there's another visual behind it. When I click on it, it says hide this visual by default and show the visual when the value of parameters selected in this left column is leader 1. So what it does is essentially after you do that, you just close it and let's see what the experience does here. So I put this on top of this. If I select leader 2, you see this visual at the same space. The other one, the behind the scene one comes up, and if I change it to leader 1, it gets hidden. Now you will say, I have selected leader 1. I have set up a rule as well. Why it is not visible here? So this is because this is placed on top of the other one. When you publish this as a dashboard, you will see the behavior with leader 1 and leader 2 both. So sometimes when you're in your analysis, when you have to get to the one behind it, you actually have to move this one and then you have to make your changes. But yes, using parameters and setting up some rules on how to hide, and when to show the visual, you can create this functionality of overlaid visuals to cater to multiple visualization needs from your users and customers. All right. Moving on to our next and the last topic for our talk today. The next is tips and tricks. We are going to talk about a few ways of enhancing your visualizations by using parameters. So let's look at our dashboard, what we are talking about. So if you see here, this is a headcount visual. You have the region, you have headcount, you have a column which is under and oversized, you have headcount percent, and you have headcount advance, which if you see is a combination of headcount and in brackets, the percentage also shows in the same column. So we are going to talk about the second column that you see here and the third column. How do we achieve hybrid fields? So headcount advance is a hybrid field here, which is a combination of headcount and the percentage. And the odd, under, and oversized is the dynamic field. Remember, we did dynamic columns in the first topic. This is dynamic field. So let's talk about what this functionality is and how to achieve this. Let's first understand what this functionality is and on what or which use cases you would be able to use this functionality. Suppose you have multiple customers and they have their organizations. They're trying to categorize their organization based on the headcount size. For one leader, they say any organization below the size of 300 for me is an underutilized organization. Anything above 300 is oversized organization for me. Whereas for other leader, they say anything under 200 is underutilized and anything above 200 is oversized for me. So now if you look at this line, APJC, the headcount is 251. Right now, when my threshold here was 300, you saw the value here is underutilized. Now let me change my org size to 200 as a threshold. And you will see APJC now is oversized. So these are the kind of scenarios. Like for example, you want to divide it into 3 categories: red, green, yellow. What is the status of your goal based on the percentage it has achieved towards the goal? Less than 80% is red, 80 to 90% is yellow, greater than 90% is green. So you can create those kind of customizations using these fields. So let's learn how to create this behavior and feature. We're going back to our analysis and we will start by looking at this. The same steps of creating a parameter. In this case, we are creating the parameter of org size. Since this is an integer, we are going to mark it as integer. It needs to be a single value and we'll define a static value for it. We will not do any advanced settings. We do not need to do any advanced settings. After that, we will create a calculated field for it. We will create the control. You all know those steps, so I'm not going to repeat those steps again, but we will jump to how to use that parameter that we created in the calculated field. So this is the calculated field that we have. And what it does is it creates an if-else condition. If the headcount is less than the value that is selected in the parameter, the all size parameter, mark this new field as underutilized, else make it as oversized. You can have 2 parameters here and create less than, and greater than, and all kind of and parameters you can use here to create a customized condition for your use case. And once you do that and save it, based on whatever you select here, this field is going to change the values. So let's say if we change it to again 300, the first row becomes underutilized. So this is the kind of behavior you can achieve using parameters and dynamic calculated fields. Another tip that or trick that we are going to talk about is this advanced head count. How do we achieve this hybrid field where you have the head count as well as the percentage together in one single field? To achieve this, we don't need any parameters. We will start with the calculated field. I already have a calculated field here created and the steps listed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this field and we'll start by creating a new field that we will see step by step here. So let's say I create this field head count demo. Now let's comment all of this and let's start from first step, how we achieve this. So we will start with inside out. We will start with first creating the string that has to go inside the brackets. So we'll start from this. Our first step is we will get to head count percentage and we will save it. Let's bring this field here in our analysis so that you can see. You see right now is 0.13. We will multiply it by 100 to get it to the right format of a rate. And we will convert it into toString because at the end of the day, we need to concatenate multiple fields into one. So everything needs to be a string. So we will convert it to toString. When you convert it to two strings, all right, I think I have, okay. Give us a, let me see, all right. Okay. When you convert it to two strings, okay, let me copy it from here. Something is. Okay. All right. Something is going wrong here clearly. But let's see here. We can walk through from steps. So first you convert it into toString. After you convert it into toString, you will have to split this in order to extract the left side of the decimal and the right side of the decimal. Let's try it once more so that I can actually show you how to. Let's cancel this.
I'll go to a different tab.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it back. Head count demo. We go back here. We multiply it by 100. Okay. So now you see it is in the right format. Now we will try to convert it into two strings again. We will write toString function. You will save it. Voila. Now when you see I converted into toString, it becomes a very long string and you don't need that. So you will have to split the string and get it to the format of, let's say, 13.37 here. To achieve that, you will have to split it. You will split the string you will use the split function and you will get the first part of the split function by doing this. So now when I do save, you see I only get 30. Now you need the second part, that is after the decimal part of the split. To do that, you will similarly use the split function again, but instead get the second part, as you can see here in step number 3. So we are not going to replicate this, but just talk through this. After you do that, what you have to do is you have to join the left side of the decimal and the right side of the decimal into one string. So what you will do is you will do this fourth step where you are joining the left side and the right side into one string. What you will additionally also do is the right side of the decimal that you have, you will truncate it to 2 decimals because you want to. Why did we split to begin with? Because we wanted to remove all the extra decimals that we have on the right side. The round function doesn't work on string. That's why we are not able to use the round function, but instead we have to use the left function to just get the 2 decimals after the decimal point. Once you do that, you will concatenate the join string from number 4. Let's say I copied this exact thing here and show you what is the outcome of step number 4. You will see we have the exact same over here. Now all you have to do is concatenate the head count with it, add the brackets, and add the space as you need, and then put this all into one string. That is the last formula here that you see. As you do that, I have the concatenation of the head count. I have the bracket here in the concatenation. I have all the split in the left functions that I applied to the rate of the head count, and I save it. And the outcome you see here is the advanced field, which is a hybrid field, a combination of your head count value as well as the rate.